And I would like to invite all the previous speakers back on stage, including our community member Joe Glombeck, who is going to host the Q&A session for all of the past few talks. Welcome back on stage. I'll get you some microphones. Woo! Give them applause.
Everyone gets slapped around.
Kim.
Oh, that was a sad one. Yeah.
Can I speak? Oh, hello. Hello, everyone. Mic's working now. Fantastic. Thank you very much, speakers. We've got a few questions already. I think we're still monitoring the Q&A. No, we're not. We're not monitoring the Q&A. You're done. You know, time's up. So first of all, I wanted to say, some of you are looking quite formal in shirts and trousers. Are you okay? Are you staying cool? It's really hot up here. I'm in shorts and T-shirt for a reason, but you guys are, yeah, braving it to look smart. Okay, so we'll start off with a question for the people involved in the keynote mostly. It probably applies to any of you, so if you've got something to say, let us know. But how did the transaction go last year? I think there's a lot of concern in the community about how having a different investor might impact the community. But from your perspective, what kind of impact have you seen there? And yeah, where's it going? How's it going behind that curtain?
Cool. Okay, so I will start by saying that, yes, so the transaction took place last year. It was a wonderful surprise, and of course it raised eyebrows, because it's like, does this mean...
So some people might not have heard, actually. Can we just briefly explain?
Well, that part is that we got bought by Swedish investors Montero, and that's the extent of my understanding.
Okay, perhaps I should say a couple of things on the transaction. Umbraco was made open source back in 2005, and and I do a fast forward here, the first 10 years of the history of Umbraco was about building the software, building a community, and thus building a strong brand. But there was basically, at that point in time, nothing really facing the market. So the second phase of the history of Umbraco was about building an organization, service support, sales, finance, admin, communication, and marketing, and so on and so forth, bringing balance into the company. And then a couple of years ago, we realized that we had taken Umbraco organically to the level that we could in this ever-changing world, dynamic world with things moving in the IT industry in general. We could see that if we were to stay the same, we needed to change. And the conclusion on that was to get an investor on board. And we ran a very long process. I won't recommend you to do that. But we finally agreed on Montero as the investor. Hence, the majority of shares was sold. From my perspective, it was absolutely necessary for us to remain relevant that we made that change. And the reaction, obviously, it came as a surprise. I got a question, why didn't you tell us before? And it was just like, how could I do that? But the majority of the reactions were congratulations, and let's wait and see what happens. And here, 9-10 months after, it's fair to say that Umbraco didn't turn into a pumpkin or an evil tech company exploiting people. We have remained true to our DNA. We will remain the friendly CMS, the friendly community, and the friendly company. And that's what took us to where we were 1 year ago. And this is what will take us the next years. So we will remain friendly and open as we were prior to the transaction.
I think that people are always looking for signs that we're becoming more corporate, and I think that that was true even before we had investors. And this lot showed up in shirts and everything, so the signs are all there. But my experience internally, and certainly when I've spoken with the community, is that we've got the opportunity to do more now. So we've got the opportunity to plan, we've got resources, we can decide what's around the corner, we can preempt things, we can anticipate things and act accordingly. It's all really exciting, and I don't think we're more corporate, it's not been my experience, but you get to judge over the next few days. If I come in a power suit tomorrow, you can...
We know something big's changed.
They've spoken to me afterwards and said, actually, you didn't get
the T-shirt thing's not working.
Right, exactly. So certainly internally and with the community that I've been speaking with, it's felt like a really fertile and exciting time. Open source, not too much has changed.
Yeah.
We hope.
I mean, you said, sorry.
I can also add that the people that are on stage here, when I ask them what can I do to help you, I get a long list of open positions, typically far more than we can cope with, especially 2 years ago. Today we are in a different situation. We are able to have a longer planning horizon. Previously it was, did we have a good quarter? Then we started hiring. If we had a flat quarter, then we couldn't hire. That's changed now, so a longer planning horizon on the investment in primarily in people enabled us to do more things on the product side and obviously also on the market side. Not that there's any promise on headcounts to you lot up here.
Thank you. So I like that you said that the initial idea was to say the same, we need to change, right? So following on from that, it's a question you've had many times before, perhaps Filip. Will Umbraco remain open source? Is a question you get a lot.
Yes. Yes. I'm good. Do you hear me?
Shout.
I'll take this mic
there we go.
as well. Yes, for sure. Umbraco is open source and will remain open source. That's the only logical thing. When people ask for a little bit more explanation, I always say our new owners, they basically bought a company where the value is the community, where the value is all of you. So if they were to mess with that, their total investment would go down the drain. There's no arguments for taking Umbraco off or closed source. That wouldn't make any sense.
Thank you. I'm sure that's reassured a few people. Okay, so let's move on to Bjarke. We had a few questions about telemetry from your talk. So first of all, someone's asked, as a package developer, can they access that telemetry about who's using their site, what versions, etc.? Is that available, or will it be available to package developers?
So today it's not available yet, but it is our long-term plan to integrate with the new marketplace. So when you have your package in there, you will also have the data available. Fantastic.
I'm sure that would be quite valuable.
Can I just add one? Sorry. I'll just add one clarification. You will never be able to know who, because the tracking is completely anonymized. We don't know who's using it. We just know that a user is using it.
Yeah. Can a package opt out of that metric? Say it might be personal identifiable information if you've got a package that's just for one site, that you've built a package for that one site. You might not want that metrics to be going up, to be collected.
So the package can opt out in the package manifest, and you can also opt into more information. Obviously, you can't use it yet, but you can specify the version of your package.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure that would be really useful. We're going to jump around a little bit, and perhaps Kek, you could answer a question for us. So, for the dedicated cloud plans, is there any dedicated SQL usage included in that, or is it a shared database type structure? And what might someone do if they needed more database I/O, for example? Is that something you're thinking about at the moment?
The short answer is no, not currently. Databases is not moved to the shared as well.
That's a nice, short, sweet answer. There we go.
But as I said, and I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, that if that is something that you want, bring us that feedback, and we'll look into seeing what can we do on that point to make it somewhat possible for you, whatever we can figure out together.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Morten, first of all, can we get an FFS T-shirt? Who do we speak to about that? I think that would be fantastic. Not thought about it yet? No? Okay, how about, perhaps a question for Morten and maybe some of the rest of you. The headless forms support, is that only in hardcore? Is that coming to core as well? You haven't got a mic at the moment.
Yeah, is it?
Oh, you've got one.
Is this working?
Yes?
Okay. Yeah, so right now the headless support for forms is still only in hardcore. But I think it makes sense to look at that when we get to the open API parts and seeing what we can do there. And if it doesn't make sense for Andy and his forms team to take over a headless API. But right now it's not a planned feature for forms, I think. We should probably ask Andy, but I don't think it is.
I suppose if the open API spec is going to be the same for hardcore and core, then we're going to see a lot of these features transitioning over.
Yeah.
Okay. So a question now about the community. So perhaps anyone who feels involved, particularly the keynote people. The question is, how does Umbraco engage with the outside world? So perhaps someone who's new to the community and doesn't know how to get interactive with you, but also maybe the outside world is in outside of Umbraco, so these partners that you're kind of working with at the moment.
Okay, I'll say something about the community, and I'm sure Kim will want to say something about how we engage with the outside world in large. So something cool that we've done, and I forgot to mention it in my keynote, is we created a dedicated Discord server for the Umbraco community this year, and it was a bit of a not so much a shot in the dark at all. We wanted to see if people would adopt a new chat client. You know, we've got a few ways of getting involved, and it's been a real success. It's a really nice place for Umbracians, however you want to pronounce it, to collaborate and to meet. And if you join the Discord server, from there you can learn all about how else to get involved with Umbraco. We have a myriad of ways. But equally, if you fancy finding out a bit more about which particular contribution you would like to make, not if any, which you'd like to make, then go to community.umbraco.com and you will see everything we do. We do so much. It's very exciting. But we've got meetups, we've got many publications, we've got Scrift, we've got 24 Days in Umbraco, we've got the events, we've got the local events. I mean, I could go on, but other people should talk. And Kim, would you speak a bit about how we engage as an organization with the outside world?
A key value of ours is being open, and not only being open source in the CMS and engaging with the community, but also supporting initiatives, coding classes, youngsters who want to learn how to code, initiatives around mentoring women in tech. We engage with NGOs, helping disadvantaged people to come into the tech world. So aside from all what we are doing on the Umbraco, we try to engage with the outside world. Obviously, there's parts of the outside world which isn't as friendly as we would like to see. War in Ukraine, for instance. We had, as with so many other companies witnessing this, need to look at what people do we know in that region. We have Alex Skipnik, an MVP, living in Ukraine. We looked at what customers we had in Russia. None. We will support Ukrainian customers to the extent possible. And obviously, we also supported the UN's humanitarian effort in Ukraine. And another area where that might not be as friendly is is the climate challenge we are facing as a globe. And we have been working some time on becoming carbon neutral. And I expect us to have that formalized no later than this year. And we do it in the form of switching to renewable energy sources where possible, and picking suppliers who are carbon neutral. And then for the rest, we will initiate carbon offsetting initiatives for us to chime into to what is needed to be done outside the Umbraco community, outside the tech world. So we try to engage and take our responsibility as we need to. And I just think that we heard a new goal partner come on board. That's most likely the reason for that. So that's how we try to engage.
Fantastic, thank you. I hope that answers the question there. Moving swiftly on to a totally different subject. Bjarke, we've got a few questions here about end of life of V9, perhaps end of life in general, long-term support releases. Got a question here about why, if Umbraco 10 is LTS and Umbraco 11 isn't, why might people upgrade? And in fact, the future, so which releases are going to be LTS?
Yes, so the idea is if you want to upgrade to 11, it's also a very good idea to upgrade to 12 and 13. So this is the non-long-term supported versions of .NET. I don't know if short-term supported version is a term, but it's something to be aware of Umbraco 9, because it was natively built on top of .NET 5, which was not a long-term supported version, and it's already out end of life. But Umbraco 9 also supports .NET 6. We don't plan to do that for 11, because when 11 is shipped, it is just a month or half a month after the .NET version is shipped. So there will be a new version of Umbraco that runs on the new version of .NET. And yeah, the smaller releases should make it easier to follow the upgrade. But if you have a super big site that you need to plan and upgrade for half a year, you should stay on the long-term supported versions. But if you have a very actively developed site, I would recommend to stay on the latest version and have the features available. Not just the features from Umbraco, but also all those Microsoft chips in the C# language and so on.
So it's going to be a decision based on, do we want these bleeding edge features, or do we want that stability and that support? And that's going to be a per case issue. So there's cases for sticking to long-term support, and there's cases for upgrading as soon as possible. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I'd say we would encourage everybody to be on the edge. Get the new features, make your editors more happy, make your developers more happy, make everybody more happy. But for those cases where upgrades are hard or projects go stale, then pick an LTS. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And I've lost where I was. So from the portal and the cloud perspective, are there any plans for an Active Directory integration? So as you're talking about building more enterprise, or getting more enterprise clients, that's something that people would be interested in potentially. So are you thinking along those lines? It's going to be another quick answer, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the same answer as last time.
It's exactly the same answer. No, there's no plans on that. Actually, we don't have any plans. We have ideas, but they're not situated or saturated in the roadmap yet. Yeah. So, again, come talk to us in Cloud Corner. Who knows? If we get a good pitch today, we find out something that's super useful for you, well, then it is in our plans. That's how flexible we'd like to see ourselves be.
That's the key outcome from all of your talks, right? Is if you want a feature, ask for it.
But I think it's fair to say that that feature, along with a couple of others that Kristian mentioned in his talk, is on the short list of things we're looking at.
Yeah.
So confirming our ideas is a great way.
Perfect. And whoa, got loads more questions suddenly. I didn't see them. I just scrolled down. So Morten. We've got some questions. I mean, I don't know much about GraphQL, so this is gibberish to me, so I hope it makes sense to you. With
Give it a shot.
with regards to GraphQL, is it going to support custom resolvers and data loaders?
Custom resolvers and
Data loaders?
it's not something we've talked about, so not.
But it's one of those things, right? If you want it, let your voice be known.
So in terms of GraphQL, the most thing that's been on our radar for the past time, I guess, I won't put a date on, but that's persisted queries as one of the next things that we have in the cards. Beyond that, that's really based off of input. Which we have a lot of things up for grabs in terms of what we can do and should do and want to do. So I think the most thing is if you can come to us with a concrete scenario and explain like how would you use it, what we use it for, then that gives us a better opportunity to put it on a roadmap and decide on whether that's something that makes sense to add and if we can add it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in a similar vein, I'm sure the answers to these are all going to be the same, but I'll list them off just in case you've got anything extra to add. So icon pickers apparently are no longer supported as a data type. And is that something that's likely to come back? Is there a limitation there? But also people requesting varying by culture, filtering content pickers in GraphQL. I assume these are all features that if you want them, let you know.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get all of it. You said filtering on culture. Did you say that? Or
varying by culture in hardcore, filtering content pickers, and icon pickers have gone apparently, or not there in hardcore.
Yeah. Well, I think come with the scenarios of what's relevant. That's the best thing I can say at this point, I think. Yeah. We have our own issue tracker now on GitHub, so you can also add it on the issue tracker as a feature request. So that gives us the insights of how you want to use it. I think what we have now is, I think, what makes sense to have. And then there's been some back and forth in terms of what's possible to do with GraphQL and how does that relate to how you do document types and content in Umbraco. Yep. For example, also with compositions, there becomes interfaces, and then you can query on it at the same way. So really come to us with the feedback that helps us make a better service at least.
Yeah, and that's the same. You're ready to listen is basically the the result of this morning. And if you want these things, ask. Thank you very much to all our speakers again. If we can get them another round of applause. And lunch will be being served shortly, I believe. But there is also the next episode in the saga with the rabbit coming up just now.